CEO Live Talks.
I am Dr. Swannie Jett, and I have a passion for public health for over 30 years. Now, I'm in a position to affect change, and these are the critical conversations about health in our community with the people who can help me make those changes. Good afternoon. Welcome to CEO Live Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Swannie Jett, and today I want to welcome one of my favorites, Dr. Ricky Jones. How you doing, my brother?
Man, we together so much. I'm gonna need to be a co-host or
You
something,
need
brother.
co-host.
Yeah, no
Tell me about it.
No doubt.
We got some interesting things to talk about in this world of Kentucky, right?
Right.
But the first thing, before I forget about it, which you can't forget about it, there's a lot of issues going on surrounding John Marshall.
Yeah.
And
Let's call him Dr. John Marshall.
Dr. John
right?
Marshall.
Yeah.
He's such a friend. I forget about
Yeah,
the
good brother.
doctor. My son actually works for him. So I need to call Tyson up and see how he's doing. But let's get into, the statements that he made. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for people not in the Louisville area, who are watching this show, Dr. John Marshall is the Chief Equity Officer for Jefferson County Public Schools. Been doing fabulous work really on equality for over
a long time.
dozen years. I mean, literally 12 years. And he was asked by some younger black professionals and students, I think, where do they go after election 2024, what things are gonna look like. And he simply said to them, look, the first thing that you have to understand is you're functioning in a world, in an area where a good percentage of whites don't care anything about you.
Right.
They're willing to do you and yours harm.
Right.
And he posted that. And because of that, about a dozen Republican legislators, all white, came together, signed on to an official document demanding that he resign or be fired from his position. So, it was really disturbing, not surprising, but disturbing that they would come at him so aggressively.
Right.
And so I certainly and some others came out in defense of him because John deserved that defense. And the reason I say Dr. John Marshall, right, because we don't stand on titles. We all have doctorates. You, me, John, we don't stand on titles. All of us are really hood brothers, quite frankly.
Right.
But what happens in Kentucky and certainly some other areas too, you'll have the white community strip black men, black women too, but black men in particular of our titles.
Correct.
They'll refuse to call us doctor.
Right.
They'll call you Jett or Swannie or him John or me Ricky, like we're familiars, like we're friends. And so while we don't stand on titles, you know that they're intentionally trying to disrespect you.
Right.
When they do that. And so that's why
I've had it happen before.
Of course.
And I've had it in a public setting, and a council person stood up and addressed the person. I was in Sanford. And told him, no, you would call him a doctor.
Yes.
So that's interesting. But he posted on Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay. And the Republicans called him a racist, which, they used the wrong terminology, right? Because he technically can't be a racist.
Well, without even getting into, the social science argument, that says that black people can't be racist because we have no power, right? And we don't have institutional power.
No.
But I'll even steer clear of that. What you really see, and it happens in other places certainly, but it's particularly pronounced here. Whenever you have a black person standing up and talk about the racism and white supremacist dominance that black people are subjected to in this area, they immediately say, you're racist, or this is reverse racism, or you're divisive, like we've ever been unified. So it's a very common and elementary playbook. They consistently use it. So they'll call John a racist. I'm called a racist every 5 minutes in Louisville and in Kentucky. They're gonna call you a racist too. You probably already have. If you speak to anything of import that centers on black people, which nobody here wants to do, they fear doing it, then you're racist. So they said he was a racist. Even said that his comments couldn't be tolerated, I'm quoting, in a civilized society. Those are the exact words that they used.
Even though he probably was speaking the truth.
No, he was speaking the truth.
Right.
He was definitely speaking the truth. And you look, I always judge spaces by their content.
Right.
So just analyze the content of how often Black people are spoken about in the area. Even as these legislators are pushing anti-Black legislation, they never specifically mention Black people. They never call on you to speak to you about what's going on with Black health and health disparities. They'll never call on me to speak about, talk about what's going on in education. They're not going to call on John to talk to him about what's going on in K through 12 education and racial disparities. They'll simply just do, one of the legislators that signed on is a woman who went up to Northern Kentucky University, for instance, and said she wouldn't send her son to Northern Kentucky because she saw Black this, Black that, didn't see white anything, all because she saw a Black student union, right? But the reality of the situation is Northern Kentucky's student population is right at 80% Black. 80% white, excuse me. If it were 80% Black,
I was going to say, that'd be.
It's right at,
that'd be right.
No, it's right at 5% Black, but its student population is right at 80% white.
Right.
Its faculty is over 90% white.
Right.
But she says there's nothing white there. And nobody challenged her on it, right? So that's the scary thing. And then she is one of the people that demands that John Marshall will resign or be fired.
Yeah, so how did this bleed over to you being on iHeartRadio?
Well, every Thursday, up until a couple of weeks ago, I would join my friend Terry Miners on his show to do a 5 o'clock spot. We would talk about some things that are going on in the city, the state or the country.
Right.
I would always use my time to talk about matters of race. Right. I'm always going to talk about Black people because very few people in the city do.
Correct.
Black people have very few platforms in radio or television, yours being one of the few. Right. And because I stood up for John Marshall and called these legislators what I feel they are, white supremacists, and they think I'm calling them Klansmen. No, they're much more sophisticated than Klansmen, right?
They're not marching in Columbus.
No, they're not marching, right? They're not doing that.
With their flag.
When I talk about white supremacy, what I'm talking about, and I said this at a Hall of Fame educational induction ceremony that John Marshall hosted, what white supremacy really is a good percentage of white people feeling they're the only ones who have the right to think, know, and decide on all matters of import. Think about what the problems are in the area, know what the proper solutions are, and then decide what's going to be done and not be done.
Right.
They're always the terminal decision makers. That's what white supremacy is. And so, and to show you how clannish, pun intended, the place is, there's an employee at iHeart who is married to one of the legislators. He complains, and the decision makers at iHeart say, no, you can't come on here. They didn't say it to me, they let Terry Miners know. So up to this point, I'm banned from that space until and unless that's lifted. I doubt if it will be. Now, here's the irony. The same guy who complained at iHeart is a rabid Republican who himself has publicly on social media skewered Democrats, liberals, skewered a liberal judge, Julie Kalan here locally, and literally said to people, let's make them famous. He's calling for them to be, publicly, reputationally attacked.
Wow.
And so this is the same person.
So it's very hypocritical.
Yeah, incredibly hypocritical. But that's what white supremacy is. So he can do that and get away with that contradiction.
Hello, my name is Sierra Clark, and I'm the Chronic Disease Manager at Park Duval Community Health Center. Ever since I started at Park Duval over 9 years ago, I have been committed to helping patients live healthier lifestyles. I am currently serving patients in the Chronic Care Management Program, or CCM program. My team and I help patients manage their chronic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. In this CCM program, you will receive several benefits to help you manage your health. We offer monthly telephone calls to check in with your progress and to assist you with any concerns, assistance with scheduling your healthcare appointments, and assistance with filling your prescriptions in a timely and convenient manner. We also offer many resources to help you with the barriers you may face with eating healthy, being physically active, or monitoring your conditions at home. For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org or visit one of our health centers.
Tune in to CEO Live Talks with Dr. Swannie Jett every Saturday at noon on Wave 3. In this thought-provoking series, we bring you conversations with influential leaders, visionaries, and changemakers who are making a difference in their communities and beyond. Don't miss an episode. Mark your calendar for Saturdays at noon on Wave 3 to watch CEO Live Talks with Dr. Swannie Jett. Together, we can shape a brighter, healthier future for all. So, all this is coming about after the election.
Yes.
So let's talk about the election results. Even though it's old news, we surely just 1 month removed, but it's still new news because there's a lot going on. So let's just break down the demographic, because one of the things that I don't think a lot of people anticipated was the amount of Latino men that voted for Trump.
Well, first of all, you were surprised, weren't you? Because we've talked about
I
this.
wasn't
You,
surprised.
were you always holding out hope?
I always have a
You always hold it out.
Just a glimmer.
I told you
Because
what was
I
going to
knew,
happen.
like, when you start saying, hey, Kamala gonna win,
You
right?
said that. I didn't.
Everybody starts coming out because they got these polls. These polls are always wrong. They try to gear you to come out to vote if you don't want that person in.
Yeah.
So what exactly happened? Exactly that. You publish a poll saying she's going to win by a small margin, and everybody said, oh, we can't have that happen.
Polls try to predict, Swannie.
They always bad.
You know, they try to predict. They're quite often wrong.
Right.
They have a long history of being wrong.
Well, who the hell they polling?
There you go. I mean, there's a serious question of what is their sample size.
Right.
You know, those of us who've actually gone to graduate school, done quantitative studies, you know, done all this type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you don't trust that stuff.
Right.
You wonder who they're polling, who's doing the polls, but also for me,
Right.
I was looking at the racial history of America.
Mm-hmm.
And the voting patterns that are dictated by that racial history. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this.
Right.
You have not had a situation, okay, in decades where the majority of whites have voted for a Democrat. There was one exception in the '96 election where by a small majority, white women voted for Bill Clinton.
Yeah,
a small minority, you know, just a very small margin. Other than that, white women have always joined white men in voting for the Republicans, including Donald Trump, even when there was a white woman running in 2016.
Yeah.
And so my thought was, look, it doesn't make any political sense to me to think that white people, white men or white women, are going to vote for Kamala Harris.
Right.
You know, I don't see that happening.
Right.
Now, what people also miss when you talk, they think every Hispanic is from Mexico. You know, because they're so globally immature, right? And so racially ignorant.
Yeah.
That is an all-encompassing term.
Right.
You're talking about people from a wide swath of regions in the world. And they don't understand the racial and color dynamics even within the Hispanic world.
That's correct.
You know, you look at places like Brazil where people have been attempting to lighten their children for a very, very long time. Mm-hmm. There's a very good book that was written decades ago by Peggy McIntosh, and there have been a number of editions of it called White Privilege, you know, and talks about how certain groups of Hispanics seek to become white. And so when you see the majority
I'm still shocked by Sammy Sosa bleaching his skin.
Well,
I'm just
right. I
done.
mean, Sammy Sosa has in effect become a white man.
Yeah. He said he had more privilege by being light-skinned or white than he did by being black. And he's a multimillionaire.
He gone
baseball player.
But bro, he gone beyond being light skinned.
Yo, he bleached it. He has no pigmentation.
It's sad to see. So you see the majority of Hispanic men
Right.
voted for Trump.
Right.
All of the attacks on black men, all the attacks pre-election, you still see the dominant majority of us went out and voted for Kamala Harris, but
Correct.
just got overwhelmed by the numbers. And so what I didn't see was the victory of Trump being so absolute.
Right.
You know, with the popular vote as well as the electoral college. But I think it tells you something about what's going on in America. So all that black-brown coalition, look, I think it's time for black people to re-examine that.
Right.
All of this idea, certainly among black women, you know, this gender coalition with white women, I think it's time for you to re-examine that. And certainly when you speak to that truth, that the numbers are pointing you toward.
Right.
People say, oh, Ricky George, you're being divisive again.
They're
not with us.
Yes, the numbers show.
Yeah, the numbers show you.
You know, the interesting part, because I think it was 54% of white women voted for Trump, and about 53% of Latino men, but it was only 37% of Latino women.
Right.
And then I saw somebody make a statement recently that the Latino men, the reason we voted for Trump because we wanted to be able to afford where we live, less taxation. Now, did I miss something?
You hear the argument a lot, right, about economics across lines of race. I always like to give people as much as I can in debates like that. Here's my question. I think that there is a serious racial component with support of Trump. But let's take it away. Let's say there is no racial component for Trump. Let's say it's really about economics.
Right.
So Americans, are you telling me, specifically the majority of white Americans, are you telling me you're willing to vote for a man that we know is a white supremacist, we know is an authoritarian, we know fomented an insurrection on the country that you say you love so much?
And a lot of people was running last time I checked.
We know the man is a sexual abuser. We know the man has been convicted of multiple felonies. We know all these things about him, right? You know, all these things about him. He's been president before. You've seen the way he's tried to blow up American institutions, right? You understand all these things. So you're saying to me, you're still willing to vote for this man so that, and give him power again, right? Sit him in the most powerful seat in the world so that you can have cheaper eggs and a more robust 401k. I mean, that's where you are, right? That's how much capitalism has infected you, right? Where your moral base is that eroded. And then you wonder why James Baldwin called these people moral monsters.
Right.
So if it is really just about economics, then I think there's a conversation to be had about what won't Americans do for money.
Hello, I'm Dr. Swannie Jett, CEO for Park Duval Community Health Centers. We conduct WIC, nutrition, and open enrollment for healthcare. So this is a one-stop shop facility for everybody in the community.
Hello, my name is Sierra Clark, and I'm the Chronic Disease Manager at Park Duval Community Health Center. Ever since I started at Park Duval over 9 years ago, I have been committed to helping patients live healthier lifestyles. I am currently serving patients in the Chronic Care Management Program, or CCM program. My team and I help patients manage their chronic conditions such as obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. In this CCM program, you will receive several benefits to help you manage your health. We offer monthly telephone calls to check in with your progress and to assist you with any concerns, assistance with scheduling your healthcare appointments, and assistance with filling your prescriptions in a timely and convenient manner. We also offer many resources to help you with the barriers you may face with eating healthy, being physically active, or monitoring your conditions at home. For more information, visit us online at pdchc.org or visit one of our health centers.
Hello, I'm Dr. Swannie Jett. Please make sure you visit one of our 5 locations, not only in Louisville, but outside of Louisville and surrounding areas. Thank you. I'm struggling because the rhetoric I'm hearing has nothing to do with economics. We're talking about eroding the Department of Education, right? Let's talk about what we can expect over the next year, over the next 3 or 4 years, now that Trump is going to get in office.
Look at Germany. Look at Mussolini's Italy. You know, you look at the seizure of the educational apparatus. All of this, again, for me, builds back to white supremacist authoritarianism.
Okay.
Again, if you understand history, you see that playbook. You see people like this always, over the long term, try to seize control of the courts. That's happened here. You see, over the long term, them try to seize control of individual states. You look at the number of governorships that are inhabited by that party that has those tendencies. That's happened here. You see them, even if they don't control the federal apparatus, they seize control of the state legislative apparatus. That's happened here. So even if people at the federal level can't get things done with that superstructure, they can point back down to a political substructure and say, we want to return this to the states, right? States' rights. That's happening here.
Yeah.
What you also see is an attack on intellectuals, trying to demean them, defame them, scurrilize them, or push them out altogether, sometimes lock them up or deport them. You see those attacks happening here. There's a deeper attack on the educational apparatus where they'll try to, one, seize control of school boards, seize control of curricula, right, and determine what people are going to learn and not learn, children that is, so that they reaffirm and ensure another generational reaffirmation of the white supremacy that we're talking about. That's happening here. So when you see all the attacks on education and people talk about, oh, this is about DEI, CRT, BLM, whatever. No, it's not. It's the reaffirmation of white supremacy. You can't talk to me about DEI and quip about didn't earn it when the president of the United States is appointing a wrestling promoter as the doggone Secretary of Education, right? I mean, those contradictions are incredibly stark.
Right.
So what is going to happen? I mean, look, it is going to be madness once again. Now, I'm not as worried as a lot of people are because black people have been through worse.
Right.
So we're sitting back seeing this and you see what's happening. And if you have actually studied history and understand what's going on, you're not surprised by any of it.
Well, I'm definitely not rooting for Kennedy having anything to do. You put somebody that's an anti-vaccinator.
Yeah, that's in your lane,
That's
right?
in my lane. And this guy has no idea about public health. So it's almost a refute of the whole entire system. From an educational standpoint, even from a scientific standpoint, which is scary when you begin to think about it. But is there anything that we can do, even though we're racist? Because we ain't got no power. I mean, so we can't be racist. We have to be prejudiced, but we have no power. So what can we do in that space?
Black people just got to survive it. You know, this is my belief. Black people have to survive it. And again, we've survived wars. We've survived slavery. We survived, you know, some of the negative aspects of Reconstruction and desegregation. We've survived all of those things. Black people are used to struggle, but we don't have any power at that federal level.
Right.
And that's even stripped away more. We don't have power in certain spaces anymore. You and I have talked for years now about what's going to happen if politics are local, then you have to take inventory of your local space. So we talk about the state of Kentucky, the city of Louisville. What can we do?
All right.
My belief is this. I am fundamentally an educator, a writer. And what I believe about Louisville is it is not unique in that it's a lost space for our people. And there are a lot of lost spaces, you know, for our people. I'm no longer wasting my time trying to work for change in Louisville. I think that's an illusion and people talk about it as propaganda.
Right.
But as a writer, as a black writer in a white supremacist space, it's my job right now at this moment to chronicle it, right? To tell the story about what happened to black people here and leave a record of that lesson so that hopefully it's not replicated in other spaces. I hope I'm wrong about here. So there are a few safer spaces for us: Atlanta, DC, Charlotte, Baltimore, places like that. Black people have no states where we have power. We have cities. And I would encourage people right now to read and recalibrate. I think our brother Charles Blow has a great plan in his book, The Devil You Know, and his documentary, South to Black Power, about, you know, Black people need to kind of relocate in certain spaces where we have a fighting chance. I don't think we have a fighting chance in places like Kentucky or Louisville.
But the problem is, and I could appreciate you chronicling everything, and I could appreciate Charles Blow, but with the attack on DEI, critical race theory, or removing the mere institutional books that chronicle African American journey in the U.S., what's to say that the Trump administration don't wipe out all the chronicling? Because you're going to get rid of the DEI. You're going to get rid of the chief equity officer. You're going to remove those titles. You're going to change the office, which you have already done, right? So where are we going?
When you talk about our educational future lies in higher ed and HBCUs,
Okay.
I think that we have to really, when I talk about, recalibrating, we have to commit ourselves to shoring up our HBCUs. Because HBCUs have always been the places where our history has survived and our sanity has been maintained. Like one of my professors at Morehouse told me, Alton Hornsby, because I transferred there from the U.S. Naval Academy, he said something profound to me that I didn't understand at that time. I was too young. He said, places like the school where you're coming from, forever, they didn't even want to let our people in.
Correct.
And now the few that they do let in, they miseducate you so badly that you're virtually useless to our people.
Right.
So what we're seeing from a lot of the white schools, because people talk about DEI, I tell them all the time, Swannie, I'm not talking to you about DEI. I really don't care anything about DEI.
Right.
I'm not a DEI advocate.
It's a
I'm an advocate
phrase.
of racial equality.
Right.
I'm an advocate of justice. I'm an advocate of Black people having just as much power as our white brothers and sisters have.
Right.
You can affix whatever title you want to affix to. I really wouldn't care if a lot of the DEI officers in the state are fired. Because some of them, they're so cowardly, they won't say anything to the benefit of Black people anyway, right?
There's no measures, there's no performance measures, there's no indicators, nothing, there's a title.
I don't care anything about them.
Right.
Okay? I don't care anything about this DEI stuff. What I care about is access and the development of power for ourselves and keeping our children centered.
Right.
But with these attacks that are happening, what white president in the state of Kentucky, what white university president has said anything of consequence about it?
Right.
I'm waiting. I'm asking you that. From the University of Louisville to Kentucky to Western, they are running from it. They are abandoning Black people and our children.
Right.
So they're basically telling us at these schools, we don't care if you're here at all. We prefer if you're not here. And if you do come here, you're going to be miseducated so badly that you will be virtually useless to your people. Right? And so I really think that we got, and we're seeing a return to HBCUs already. You know that. And so we got to work on it.